What's up everybody, Derek here, and today we're going to do a little underwater test here with a Carolina rig, which I have in this hand. It's got a 1/2 ounce bullet sinker right there, which I like to use a lot of the time with a bead and a swivel, and then about a 2-foot leader with a 3/0 wide gap hook on a Googan Baits worm, basically. So any kind of worm, a lot of times. These are more kind of deep water fishing lures, specifically most of the time, but pond fishing, if you want to get it way on out there with a 1/2 ounce lure, you can get it way out there. But we're comparing it to the Texas rig, and right now I just got it on a 3/0 wide gap hook with a 3/8 sinker. You don't have to go too crazy, but you can upsize your sinker as you go along, and you can fish this thing just about anywhere. You could get a 1 ounce, 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce, and you could punch mats. You could fish shallow, you can fish deep, you can fish all over the place because you're mimicking those crawfish and other things that are just dragging them along the bottom, basically. So let's look at these underwater and do the comparison for ourselves. All right, we're gonna start using this Carolina rig first to kind of break down how this thing works underwater. It's definitely a deeper water kind of a lure, but with that 1/2 ounce, we'll show in a second how far you can actually cast this thing out there, and it goes a mile. So as you can kind of see, you see how that worm just kind of follows what it's doing. You just basically, whenever you're fishing those ledges or humps, you're just kind of dragging it along. And something about that action brings them in big time. And it just drags it along the bottom. And just let it sit for a little while. That's all you got to do. Not really a whole lot to it. All right, let's do a deep. Now look how far you can actually cast that thing. Now if I was wanting to fish over there out in the middle, there's nobody that's gonna reach that far at all. That wasn't even as far as we could cast probably. So if you're pond fishing or anything like that, you definitely can get it on out there. I know in the past, I have pulled up to places and just fished ledges that I didn't even know if there were fish there, and just knew that they were off the deeper stuff. And no graphs, no electronics, no nothing, no mapping, nothing, and just fished out in those areas. And the fish just where you think they would be. Carolina rig it, and I've done that several times, and you just tear them up. But mainly during the summertime when they're all bunched up on certain lakes, out on those ledges. All right, I'm gonna pitch it on out there and let that worm fall to the bottom. A lot of times I've had it to where you just throw it out there and it just is heavy. And then you've got to fish before you even know it, or even try to start working it. But as you see, as you drag it along the bottom, that worm just kind of jumps around, follows the rocks. And this is one of the best depth finders to kind of figure out what kind of stuff is down there, because it transmits that feeling of what the bottom has down there through the line. Well, here's our Texas rig right here. As you see that bullet sinker right above it, this is a perfect size for most applications of fishing these. Texas rig is an awesome lure. You want to make sure you got all the appendages ready. That one was still kind of connected right there, so you got all the flapping, but you're just trying to mimic something that's crawling along the bottom down there. But I would say, rather than the Carolina rig kind of being just a deep water bait, this is a shallow and deep water bait. But you can just about fish these anywhere, so let's give this a shot. I mean, look at the appendages on that thing. And just, a lot of times you can just hop it just like that. It's really not a whole lot to it. Or you can drag it. Now, just like a crawfish or a jig or anything else out deep, like the Carolina rig, you can just drag it along the bottom. A lot of times that's all it takes to pull fish in. This bandito bug has tons of appendages on it, which creates all kinds of vibration in the water, and those fish kind of key in on it when they can see them. Looks just like a good sized crawfish down there for the most part. And if you're trying to cast this compared to the Carolina rig and the size of the weight, you can still cast these a good distance. But really, if you want to get a bait way out there and fish it, the Carolina rig with that 1/2 ounce weight, it's hard to beat, really. But just picking up, kind of flipping it up and letting it set. That's usually all you got to do with one of these. And 3/8 ounce, you can go bigger when you're punching mats or you've got some kind of vegetation, kind of like what's out here. You could actually fish these with a bigger weight, like a 1/2 to 1 ounce weight, and get under those mats where a lot of the fish, especially bass, like to sit under there, because it sounds corny, but bass don't have sunglasses, so they got to get under some kind of structure. All right, that looks good. Let's drag it a little bit. Now, instead of a jig, that is a great way to fish one. And it's got a slow fall rate, which a lot of times fish can just pick it up on that alone. Well, guys, you can decide for yourself which of these you would rather be fishing. If you're pond fishing, you could get this out into the middle of the pond just about by chucking it way out there. This one will catch them in the pond. This one will, both will pick them up on the lake, shallow more, I would say, in my experience, but ledge fishing, humps, deep water stuff as well on lakes, and even in some river situations if you downside. I know I used to use a little split shot rig on one of these, and I've caught some really good fish doing it that way, but Texas rig, you just can't beat it with that bullet sinker right above it either. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section, and thanks for watching, you guys, and subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video if you liked it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.